I will teach you 9 strategies and tactics for advanced business-to-business marketing. These are based on common mistakes that are not obvious. My name is Decker Fraser. I was a vice president of marketing for a Google-associated startup and a global manager for Sony. I studied business-to-business marketing at Philip Kotler's Kellogg School, where I received my MBA. First, you're probably doing too much digital marketing. One of the most effective ways to acquire customers right now is through direct mail gift boxes. Unlike emails and ads, gift boxes are very difficult to ignore. They break through the noise. One of my clients closed an astounding 50% of cold prospects who received gift boxes. These packages often include food, a letter, a brochure, and an offer of money to attend a sales meeting. Paying people for their time is a legitimate way to generate sales pipeline. One of the reasons this is so effective is because boxes bypass gatekeepers, while postcards and emails can be easily thrown in the trash. I give specific case studies in my course. Strategically positioned billboards can also be effective. For example, buying one near the headquarters for major customers, or concentrating out-of-home ads in a key city like Brex did with San Francisco. One of the reasons digital gets so much investment is because B2B firms get attribution wrong. There's a ridiculously heavy bias towards clicks and last touch attribution. But we know that some of the most influential channels don't generate that many clicks, so they don't get credit in your CRM. Offline marketing doesn't get credit, and modern social media that discourages clicks also doesn't get credit. Some data suggests that 80% of an influencer's impact is indirect and will not show up in archaic attribution models. The simplest, albeit imperfect solution is simply asking customers why they bought or how they heard about you. What you'll discover is that podcasts, influencers, and other channels are much more effective than they seem. You may realize that Google and affiliates are basically stealing credit. Given this attribution error, we can also see B2B companies over-investing in direct response marketing. Direct response can sometimes be incredibly wasteful, especially if you have long sales cycles. Very few people are going to immediately click an ad and sign up for a demo of your product. If they do, they're probably not good candidates for your product. In fact, a lot of those clicks and signups are driven by robots. So your ads end up optimizing for exactly the wrong thing. If your target audience is small, then awareness marketing can be incredibly cheap, especially compared to the size of a large contract. For example, if you're targeting senior executives in a specific industry in the US, then why not advertise to literally every one of them? You're not selling $15 t-shirts here. Influencing people takes time and it takes effort, especially executives. B2B marketing is not just about gimmicks that get people to click or sign up. If you do this, you limit how many people you can influence. Running awareness campaigns will eventually show up in the following ways: direct traffic to your site, more Google traffic, and more searches for your brand. There's also a case here for investing in what some people call dark social, such as conversations in Slack channels that rarely get attribution. In fact, you can call an entire chunk of your marketing a dark funnel because it's a blind spot in your tracking. Direct response obsession is a symptom of a wider issue, which is focusing exclusively on trailing indicators. Digital marketers focus myopically on trailing indicators like conversions. This might work if you're selling cheap impulse purchases, but with B2B, you're dealing with large contracts and long sales cycles. You should also consider other types of metrics, like input metrics. For example, the number of influencers you met with, and leading indicators like branded search volume or ratings. These help you focus more on causes rather than the effects, focusing on producing future impact rather than looking in the rear view mirror. With short-term metrics, one of the biggest mistakes I see is focusing too much on leads. There's often a huge gap between leads generated and meaningful sales conversations. In other words, most of the leads marketing generates are completely useless. The research clearly shows this. So in the short term, it's better to optimize for sales qualified opportunities rather than leads. This might mean the cost per lead goes up, but your customer acquisition cost will go down. Strategically, you're probably trying way too hard to differentiate yourself from competitors. Now, you care a lot about what makes you different, but customers generally don't. And this might surprise you, but the research clearly shows that customers don't generally care why you're different. That's because value propositions happen at the level of product categories. You and your competitors share the same value proposition. Customers care mostly about solving their problems, Highlighting what makes you different pulls attention away from this main value prop. So you should talk less about what makes you special and more about solving customers' problems. This is one of the most widely held myths in marketing. The idea that you win by being different or special, having a unique position. It's generally wrong. You win by having greater distribution, greater awareness, and more efficiency, not by being different. There are a minority of cases, though, where differentiation matters a lot. Take a look at the research from Dr. James Anderson. These are what we call strategic purchases. They are products that help your buyers differentiate their offerings. Let's say your product helps FedEx speed up their deliveries. Customers might then choose FedEx over competitors because their service is now faster. It's faster because of your product. So what you sold FedEx fundamentally improved their value proposition. In cases like these, it's very helpful to quantify how much incremental value you create. For example, you might add 5 million more profit because more customers are now going to choose FedEx. Or maybe you sell automation software that cuts labor costs by $500,000. These are the rare cases where differentiation matters, and that difference can be calculated in terms of dollars. I walk you through how to do these calculations in my course. But if you think about it, most B2B products are not like this. For example, live chat software for a website. Sure, this helps improve sales and makes the customer experience better, but it doesn't fundamentally change what the website sells. Nike shoes are still the same with or without a live chat on their site. Or say you sell physical supplies like plywood or screws. Buyers don't care if these materials are different. If you want to learn how to market yourself without trying to be different, take a look at my course. You're probably underutilizing AI. I use tools like M1 Project, which provide astounding detail about what buyers need, what objections they have, and who to partner with. I use ChatGPT to rewrite my copy in the style of famous copywriters like Gary Halbert. Since senior executives can be difficult to gain access to, you can use synthetic data and AI-generated avatars that mimic how those senior executives would respond. I break down AI applications into 5 key use cases: profitable targeting, marketing communications, sales enablement, market research, and productivity, personalization, and problems. You're probably also underutilizing partnerships. Partnerships are one of the most economical ways of acquiring customers. This is especially true if your business-to-business product is cheap. It is expensive to market to every single potential buyer in your market. It's much more efficient instead to concentrate your resources on the most influential partners. These partners can disseminate your message and influence the much larger group of end buyers. One of the easiest ways to do this is using tools like SparkToro or M1 Project that identify the people, publications, and brands that most influence your ICP. You can then pay those influential people to meet with you. You can give them free VIP access to your product. Do everything you can to make these people like your product and understand your product. For example, let's say you sell point solution software. There's already some key piece of software your customers are using. This is typically a CRM, practice management software, an ERP, or an accounting system. The companies that own these already have access to your customers and have considerable influence over them. Why not concentrate your time on these companies that have established relationships with your future buyers? One of the biggest blind spots I see in marketing is this hyper-focus on direct-to-customer marketing. This leads to a ton of inefficiency, where you try to do everything at once: brand marketing, retail marketing, product marketing, etc. Why not leverage the brands of influencers before building your own? Also, leverage their content marketing expertise and amplify it with advertising. You don't need to do everything yourself. Use partners for distribution, content, and brand credibility so you can focus on product marketing. I show you how to find and solicit partners in my course. I believe most business-to-business marketing funnels are wrong. In fact, the whole idea of a marketing funnel is questionable. The original marketing funnel, known as ADA, was actually designed for in-person selling, not marketing. And it wasn't even a funnel at all. It was sometimes depicted as a scale that reached a tipping point. So attention, interest, and desire are just necessary ingredients to secure a sale. They're not part of a linear funnel. The classical way of looking at marketing as a tipping scale can be far more effective. So instead of pushing people through a funnel. You instead think about how to maintain people's attention, get interest, generate desire, and drive action. In my course, I walk through a more sophisticated way of thinking through the funnel using a template I developed. I also show you a very good model developed by the CMO of PwC. Instead of thinking of content in terms of a funnel, I think of it in terms of key messages that need distribution. You always give prospects the opportunity to contact sales or book a demo. In other words, you don't assume you know what stage in a funnel they are at. For example, the bottom of every email can have contact information or a demo request, and prospects can always engage in a live chat on your website or contact you through direct messages. This is what I call choose your own adventure. Another consideration that fits into this choose your own adventure philosophy is that most positioning is wrong. Different positions are going to resonate with different people at different times. For example, high-level executives often aren't concerned with specific solutions. They care about how you can help them get clarity on a vague macro trend. But as you move further down the buying journey, your position as a thought leader is less relevant. Middle managers who handle the RFPs and purchase decisions will become more concerned with whether you can meet very specific or technical requirements. So position yourself differently to different audiences. You can position each piece of content differently as well. For example, you might run an awareness ad on LinkedIn talking about how fast your product is, and another ad talking about how error-free your product is. You're dispersing a series of key points that need to be communicated, a portfolio of messages rather than a single narrow message. I already mentioned one of the most common positioning mistakes, which is trying too hard to differentiate. Customers care more about their needs than about what makes you special, and they usually have a variety of needs rather than buying for one narrow reason. Generally, what should tie everything together is the association between your product or your brand with the product category. If you want to master B2B marketing, check out my very affordable course with over 56 hours of hands-on training. I walk through tactical and strategic details. It's basically an MBA in business-to-business marketing at a tiny fraction of the cost, just a couple $100. This is solid advice from a highly experienced marketing veteran with an MBA from the top marketing school in the US. My advice is also backed by the most robust research and latest technologies.